Okay. This end of the trolling motor, quite heavy. I assume that it has quite a bit to do with the mount that's on here. The motor's kind of heavy. But this shaft, brand new shaft, that's what's going to get cut in just a few minutes. I don't know what this is made out of now. They were making them out of, I don't know, either aluminum or steel. It doesn't feel like aluminum or steel. I've read that they're gonna make these out of carbon fiber. It might be carbon fiber. I don't know. We'll see. Not terribly worried about it either way. I mean, a cutter should go through this no problem. So I'll set this up and get to work. Starting on the modifications to the trolling motor. I gotta say it's kind of weird being at this point because this is one of those things where you start a project like this and I'm like, it's gonna take forever to get to this point, but here I am. So electric motor modification, I gotta remove the cover from the control head, unplug the wires from the printed circuit board, remove the 4 screws holding the circuit board in place, remove the circuit board and handle assembly. So that's step 1. And then I go to page 9 EL, which is here, to make the cut that I was just talking about, that 14¼ inch cut. So first things first, I have to figure out how to get the top of the control head off, which I'm assuming is going to be, there's screws here. They look like Phillips head screws, so we'll go with that first. It appears as though the cover for the control head is loosening up. So I think I'm on the right track here. So this is, let me pause this weird music. This is the inside cover, printed circuit board, and we've got, there are 4 red wires and 4 black wires. However, we've got some terminals here that come apart. So we've got a circuit board here, which is just the digital display. And then this is going to be the printed circuit board right there that's got to come out. Get these screws out of here before I lose those. Just like that. Alright, I'm just going to stick these loosely, finger tight. So, like I said, there are 4 black wires, 4 red wires. I don't know how closely the directions will actually follow this process. This, this trolling motor is brand new. Like, I bought it just before Christmas. And it's January, so it is the newest version of this trolling motor. I got to get the head off, but I got to unplug wires first. Actually, looks like I don't need to cut any wires or anything. Everything is plugged in via terminals. Okay, so let's get rid of this so that's out of the way. Okay. Come on, camera. Come on, camera. What do I got here that can support you? All right, so cover's off. That was just a simple release of the terminals. I don't need to label those. I'll be able to figure those out later. So I've got what's going on here. Okay, so that just pulls out. That goes, that blue stem is keyed. It's got a flat side to it right there. So it's keyed to this. So that'd be easy to install later. This wire here can't reach that post. That one can't reach that post. You know what I'm gonna do? Stop. I'm gonna take a picture, that'd be easier. Picture taken. Now we'll just unplug the terminals. Okay, everything's unplugged. I should be able to just take that screw, and then there's two more in here, and then the circuit board should come off. I don't know if I'll mention this just because it's probably relevant to what I'm doing. I am experienced in electronics. In my personal life, built two airplanes, two and a half airplanes we'll call it. Third one sold before I got finished. And also in my professional life, I do business development and tech support for a line of electronic circuit breakers for experimental and general aviation airplanes. So this kind of stuff is quite interesting to me, but also not intimidating because of that. The instructions do say, if you're not comfortable doing this kind of stuff, take the motor to your Minn Kota dealer and they can make the modifications for you. Okay, there's the circuit board, free. Set that aside. Okay, there's a little grommet here that's gonna have to come apart to, actually I don't need to release those. These wires here are gonna come off with this. These will slide through that hole. That's interesting. The brown ground wires is just cut. So if I turn this over, I've got a Phillips screw and two Allen key screws that I'm going to have to remove, and that should then release the head from the shaft. You'll notice I'm not using any power tools for this, removing anything with a Phillips head. I'm sure I could find the hardware if I strip something, but with a power tool, there's always a risk of stripping something, and I just don't want to take that risk with Phillips head screws. Now with the Allen key screw, those, I would imagine, will just have to be loosened. Yep, and of course I'll drop the freaking nut. And we'll hand tighten these screws. Not even tighten, just set these screws back in place so they have their place and do not get lost. These two probably get threaded right into the circuit board, yep. Okay. And Allen keyed screws. Let's see. These don't need to be taken out all the way, they just gotta be loosened. Oops, that's tightening. I don't want to do that. Okay, that one feels loose. That one feels loose. I'm guessing by the reaction of the shaft that is gonna, yeah, that's free. Okay. Wires go through. Voila. Okay. Head is free. Power or control wires go with it. Set those aside for later. So then we can remove this clamp thingy, whatever this is. Ouch. I don't know what that's for. I'll set that aside in case I need it for the upper part. This comes off all together. I can get the wires to go through the appropriate holes. Okay. That does not want to stay. Oh man, heavier than I thought it was. So looky here, we have the head removed. The tightener thingy mount. Anybody need a mount? I'll be selling that because that'll never get used since I'm cutting this thing in half. And then up here is the two halves of the control head. The instructions now call for a piece of PVC piping to be shoved down the tube to protect these wires. I don't think it's necessary at all because I'm going to use a pipe cutter to cut the shaft. I think that's probably in the instructions for people that are using a cutoff wheel or something, just so you don't slice right through those wires. But with a pipe cutter, it's so slow and precise, no real reason to do that. So I'm going to measure up 14 1/4 inches from the base of the motor, the fitting that holds the motor, and then I'll proceed to make my cut. And I think I'll just put the power control head back together. That way I don't have to worry about placing the circuit board in plastic or preserving it in any way. Yeah, once this is cut, the wires have to be cut. Think about that while I'm making the plans to cut here. Okay, just quadruple checking. 14 1/4 inches is the measurement. 14 1/4. Interesting. It's definitely not steel or aluminum. Let's see what happens here. Well, I'm not really, I don't know what this is made out of. It might be carbon fiber, but it's cutting fairly easily. I think it is carbon fiber. It's making dust and it's fraying. I don't know. It's not making airborne dust. It's just falling to the ground. I might have to get a little saw. I'm at the I'm bottomed out on my cutter. At least I think I was bottomed out. Not quite. Pretty close. This is a thick shaft. I would say this is 3/16 of an inch thick. Man, I'm close. I'm really close. I didn't really think that the wall thickness of this would prevent me from getting all the way through with my pipe cutter. What shall I do? What shall I do? I think I'm gonna get a hacksaw. All right, so I brought in 2 different saws. I've got, I don't know what you call this, a saw, and then a hacksaw. I'm gonna try the hacksaw first because it's a finer tooth blade. I don't know what I'm cutting here. Cutting very, very easily. I'm using very, very light pressure. This might be valuable to those of you who are going to do this in the future. If you don't buy a used trolling motor, if you buy a new one, you're getting whatever this shaft is made out of. Okay, I'm through. I'm going to vacuum this up a little bit so I don't stir up any dust. I don't know what this is and I don't want to breathe it. Separate the 2 halves here. Interesting. This is a finished factory end. That's the cut end. It almost looks like there's an outer layer and an inner layer. It's frayed a little bit, like it is fibrous. I mean, you can see the fibers. Maybe it is carbon fiber. Try to sand these edges smooth. Cut piece just to remove any burrs. So weird. Look at the sandpaper. It's like graphite. And just using the X-Acto knife to cut away the frayed material on the inner diameter. All right, well that's the top half of the shaft. I'll get back to putting the control head back together here very shortly. Actually, I gotta figure out what to do with these wires. I had a few minutes to think about this. I'm just gonna cut these wires so as they come out of the tube, I'm just gonna cut them about 18 inches up. That way I can plug them back into the control head, get that all put back together, and then I can put the shaft back in after I splice in additional wiring. So I'm going to cut them, I don't know, about here, and then put the control head back together, and then I'll worry about putting the shaft together after I add a spliced wire to this that will then connect to this later on. I think that's a good plan. So here we go, a little snip. Okay, this side is free and ready for me to make the through hole fitting. Right now, I'm going to bring the control head back down. Just set this aside for a minute. It's been a few minutes, but let's see if I can get this put back together. This bolt here goes through the shaft with this nut. set this aside for later. And we'll run these wires up through the head, okay, which is going to let that stick out. So I'll splice wires onto these later, then I'll be able to add the shaft back on. But I want to get this circuit board and the control handle put back together while it's fresh in my mind. Hopefully this works. Hopefully I remember everything. All right, circuit board goes about like that. Came up the side. Would help if I got them. If I hit the hole. That's what she said. That one's good and tight. That one's good and tight. Screw number 3, that one's tight. Screw number 4, that one's tight. Okay, so now I do remember this red wire goes here. This black wire goes here. And what I don't remember, which I'll just refer to the picture here in just a moment, is which of these wires. I think the black one went on the bottom and the red one goes on top. I think the black one goes on the bottom, red on top. I think the black one goes on the top, red one on the bottom. One of those is correct. Just like I said, black on top, red on the bottom. So the circuit board's put back together, all the wires are reconnected. I've got plenty of wires sticking out the bottom to splice onto. Now all I have to do is figure out how to reattach the control arm. That went like that, right? I should have taken a picture. Is there an explodogram in here? There is an explodogram. Okay. This will help. My problem is this plate here, I don't remember which way it goes. So, using the explodogram, I can tell that it goes in like that. Problem. This is a rheostat, not a micro switch. I'm going to make an assumption here that it's going to work. It's going to have an off position in the middle. It's going to go, we're going to twist it that way to go forward, which means it's going to go this way, forward, this way, reverse. Okay. We'll find out in a couple of months if I'm right or not. Boy, I should have paid attention to this a little better. I think I'm okay, as long as I can get all these parts to play nicely together. I figured it out. I was trying to put this, you can't, well, you might be able to see it. There's a slot right there where that washer is sitting in right now. I was trying to put this piece in that slot. Washer goes in the slot so that the rheostat sits down in there. This has a perfectly shaped bottom part to sit in there. That holds the rheostat captive and then allows this to be installed. Okay, well, this might all have to go in together. This will be interesting. Just like that. Got it. Jeez. All right. See how that all goes back together there? Now, we got that all stabilized. All right, before I plug those back in, let me just verify this. That is correct. All right. Well, Minn Kota is not great at putting their stickers on. It ends way, way to the north. The T is north and crooked. The A is crooked. Whatever. Okay, well, I'm gonna plug these two back in. All right. There she is. Everything plugged back in, everything in place. Well, let's put the cover back on. So the wires gotta go on the inside. Spring plates gotta go on the outside. Right like so. That's all put together good for now. Now I might have to take this apart again because the circuit board diagram does call for ground wire to be installed, which if I have to do that, that's fine. 6 screws come off, I install a ground wire under that screw there. So I just wanted to get it put back together so that everything's in place, no parts are missing later on. I've got plenty of wire sticking out the bottom of the control head to splice wires onto. Stow off. This is nice, right on centered. Got forward speed, 100%, 75, 50, on the off and reverse. There you go. That's going to be done and set aside for now. This might be a video all by itself. That was quite a bit of information. Because next I come back to the bottom half here. We're going to wrap this shaft fiberglass, which I thought I would get to today, but I'm not going to. It says to fill this tube with a 1/2 inch or with 1 inch of silicone caulk. Let it cure overnight. I can do that, I guess. If I have any caulking, that is. Let's go see. Yeah, there's that's trash. I think I have one more. That silver silicone that I just tried to use, well, that was at least a year old. I used it to seal the corner pieces and rub rail on the Glasstron that I restored, pictured here. I restored that boat over the course of about a year, year and a half. And sold it to a gentleman in Texas whom I haven't heard from since he bought it. I sold it without a motor, and he was going to put a motor on it and then send me some pictures of it after he got it done. I need to contact him again. Ooh, this is black. This is roof cement. Smells like oil. But it'll work. It'll do the same thing as silicone. That boat I tore completely down to the hull. Okay, I'm just gonna fill this up with silicone, or with, well, in this case, roof cement. Gross. I mean, silicone probably would have been better, but yeah, roof tar's as good or better because it's formulated for the elements. Whew. I haven't used roof tar in years. Forgot how bad it smells like tar. And it stains too, quickly. Okay, there's how that's going to set overnight. There's the motor.